Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the South Side. Bob Pompiani here, soon to be joined by Missy Matthews. It is a Monday press conference for head coach Mike Tomlin because the game, of course, is on Saturday this week at Indianapolis. We thank you for joining us here on KDK Plus and all the Steeler digital platforms as the Steelers go down the stretch after two losses. Really bad losses at home to teams that they expected to beat, and many of us expected them to beat. So that lands them in a situation where you have a whole bunch of logjamming going on in the AFC right now. The Steelers are one of 6 teams at 7 wins, 6 losses. However, because of what happened yesterday, they've improved from 8th after Thursday into the 6th position, which is a wild card spot. So obviously, the remaining 4 games are huge. 3 of the next 4 on the road, starting with Indy on Saturday. Head coach Mike Tomlin is ready to address the media, so let's take you there.
Good afternoon. With a few additional days, man, we've had really a good opportunity to kind of assess where we are and look at the why and plot a course and to move forward, obviously, in an effort to change our most recent results. Most recently, if you look at kind of the outcome of the game, certainly we've had some ills that have been kind of consistent throughout the year. But, you know, particularly in the last couple of weeks, I thought our situational defense was significant, our inability to hold people to field goals in the red area. We've talked a lot about it, about the attrition component of the interior portions of our defense at linebacker and sub package and what that has done to us in terms of some schematics and some people and some tight ends have made some significant plays in recent weeks. And so, you know, I'm excited about getting a full week opportunity to kind of clean some of that stuff up. First of all, some of the guys that we're using, is reasonable to expect those guys to be better with more exposure. But also, we'll get a full week to kind of craft a plan to highlight what it is that they do well and divide the labor up in a way that can minimize some of those things that have transpired. You know, we got put on a short field a week ago, and we weren't able to hold them to a field goal, and really that's the difference of the outcome of the game. Under normal circumstances, as a defense, man, we get off in those tough circumstances. We hold people to field goals. We keep them out of the end zone. We play better red zone defense than we have in recent weeks, and so we got some work to do, obviously, there. On the offensive side of the ball, I thought Mitch picked up his play as the game wore on. I thought that is a reasonable expectation for him to be even better because of that experience and because of the experience of having a full week's prep this week in preparation for the performance, in helmet reps and things of that nature, full speed reps. Excited about that component of it. But more importantly than anything else, I'm excited about this group meeting the challenge that is an NFL season, man. It's thick this week. We're in a big game. It's big for both squads. Both squads have absorbed some negativity, if you will. Our ability to manage that and remain focused in prep and in play will ultimately determine our positioning. I'm excited about getting singularly focused and working our tails off this week in an effort to pursue it. From a health standpoint, Kenny can be described as out again this week. We've had a couple of guys that are in the concussion protocol, Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt. They're in the protocol. We'll rely on the medical experts in terms of their availability and then the stages of availability in terms of as we push through the week. But I don't have a lot of information or detail there. I really wait and hear from them regarding those things. Elandon Roberts was able to participate in game and with an extended cycle. I'd imagine that's going to be less of an issue for him. James Pierre will have an opportunity to play. Some of the other guys who kind of went into that game in less than ideal circumstances, I'm sure will be better because of the extended weekend as we come out of it. Guys like Isaac and Najee, who were limited last week in preparation, will probably have more extended in-helmet preparation, which is critical on a big week. We need in-helmet perspective on prep. We need good days. And so it's a big component of what we do. Looking ahead now to these guys, I'll start first with their defensive group. They got some continuity there, man. Gus Bradley's been there for a number of years. We played against him last year in Indy, but we've played against him a lot in recent years, whether it's in Indy or other places. His defensive schematics have a feel or texture to them. He's a fundamentalist. They execute very well. They ride the wave that their front provides. They play a lot of people in their front. Buckner is a bell cow, if you will, of that front group. He plays in run game circumstances. He plays in pass game circumstances. They got some guys that distinguish themselves in one or the other. Like I said, they use a lot of people. Kwity Paye, Sampson are two guys on the edge, man, that provide quality rush for them. I think they got 4 guys with 5 or more sacks. I think they're 4th in the league in terms of sacks per game. Those guys provide the wave. They really do. Can't say enough about Zaire in the middle. At linebacker, it's been fun the last several days, just getting familiar with his evolution as a player, man. Obviously, he's been in Indy a number of years. They drafted him late, and he's kind of grown through the ranks as a teamer and then a component of the defense, and now he's really a central component of the defense. He's a green dot. He had 160-plus tackles, I think, a year ago. I think he's right around 140 as we sit here today. His growth and evolution in playmaking is probably one of the reasons why they've been able to move on from a guy like Shaq Leonard, man. His tape has been really hot. Kenny Moore on the back end, man, is another guy that's been there a long time, man, is really good at what he does, plays inside, is a good blitzer, is a good tackler, a good slot cover guy. I think he's got 2 touchdowns. I think they've got 5 touchdowns on defense, man. They've been really opportunistic, and I think that's a signature of a Gus Bradley group, man. They play some zones. They got vision to break, tips and overthrows they collect. They got vision to break when the rush is breaking the pocket down. That's how they work in terms of creating splash. Like their safety tandem, they've made plays, particularly in terms of closing some games out. When people get somewhat one-dimensional, they sit in that umbrella schematics back there, man, and they close the door and finish some games. On the offensive side of the ball, they appear to be very comfortable with Gardner, and they should be. He's new to Indy, but he's not new to what it is that they do. He came over with the coaching staff from Philadelphia. I would imagine they were really intentional about his acquisition, and they find comfort in that now that they get a chance to call upon them. He looks like a guy that's really comfortable within their system of offense. The RPO component, the run-pass component of it, the changes of launch point, the misdirection component of it. He makes good and fluid decisions. He's good at extending when plays aren't available to him in a normal fashion. He does a good job of extending plays and turning them into a positive. They got a real nice division of labor at the eligibles. Can't say enough about Mike Pittman and the plays that he makes. He's a high-volume catch guy, a tough guy, a guy that makes tough combat catches. Pierce is a guy that's a 50-50 ball guy, a down-the-grass guy. He was that at the University of Cincinnati. We looked at him hard when he came into the league. He's still proven to be that in terms of his ability to make deep ball plays. Downs is a new guy that I'm getting familiar with, a rookie that plays in the slot and does some slot things for them in there. They got a nice arsenal of tight ends, and given how we've performed against tight ends of late, obviously that has our attention. They do a really nice job of spreading the ball around and dividing the labor up within that group. At running back, we better be prepared to see Taylor. Got a lot of respect for him. We've seen him some, but also have a lot of respect for Zach Moss and respect the work that he's done in Taylor's absence. But again, featured ball carrier work is not something that's foreign or new to Moss, man. He's been at it for some time, and so he's a veteran in that space and not surprised by the quality work he's given them there. They made some splash plays in teams. They essentially won their latest Tennessee game on special teams, blocked a couple of punts and things of that nature. And so, that would be a space where I'm sure both teams are trying to make some splash and to provide a leg up in what is a huge AFC road game for us. And so excited about that. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, even after the last two losses, your playoff positioning is basically unaffected. Do you use that going forward as a positive message for the guys to look, this is where we still are?
I think our guys understand that. I'm not necessarily looking for positive messages in an effort to build them up. I'm probably taking the opposite approach and talking about how urgent, these weeks and opportunities and games are, because the road is getting narrow is a phrase that we like to use. And we're moving into the middle of December now. And so that's just acknowledging truth. Opportunities to establish your position. These games are big. This one's big for us and big for them.
Mike, to your knowledge, was TJ checked for concussion after taking that knee to the face from Zeke?
I assume that he was, but again, I'm managing the game. I leave that to the medical experts. They essentially tell me whether someone is out, whether they're subject to return, or whether they're back. I got a report that he was subject to return, and then I got a report that he was back, and that was just, my knowledge of the details of what transpired with him during the time that he was out in game.
Mike, after the game, Minkah Fitzpatrick he said, we need more guys that want to work for it. I don't think we have enough that want to work for it in the locker room. How do you evaluate the team's work ethic to this point? And is that something that needs to be addressed at this point in the season? He probably was talking about smiling in the face of adversity. These are going to be tough games. There are going to be some adversity. It's going to be challenges. Nothing is going to be given to us, and we got to fight that. We got to smile in the face of that. He's a guy that does that and lives that life, and I'm sure he's just challenging others to do the same. We got to do a better job of that in an effort to change the outcome of games, certainly. Do you have enough guys in the locker room that smile in the face of adversity? And
certainly.
Aside from the inside linebackers and the attrition that you alluded to before, I think you used the phrase consistent ills. Of those consistent ills, what's fixable at this point, and what are you working around? Because there's
I think they all are fixable in that spirit. Minimizing a negative is fixing it to a degree. Minimizing its impact on the outcome of plays or games. And so we'll never throw our hands up, man. We always view ourselves as capable in terms of getting better, addressing things that need to be addressed. And sometimes it might not just be improving at one specific thing, but just moving away from it, highlighting something that we're better at, for example.
I know this is part of your job, but how important is it for the players to police the other players, or to challenge them, or to make sure they are doing what they need to do?
That's a component of team, certainly.
Mike, is there anything you can do as coach to help players with accountability? Because that was another word that was mentioned after the game about players being accountable.
I think oftentimes these discussions come up when you're not getting the desired results that you look for. And so, I'm not alarmed by the discussion. I'm putting my focus where it should be, on our prep and improving our prep in an effort to improve our performance. And sometimes improving prep is just acknowledging some things that you're not doing well, or you're not doing well right now. It might just be because of the collection or the makeup of division of labor or people that you have doing it. In those instances, those things need to be minimized.
You have a lot of longtime Steelers on the defensive side of the ball, but who's demanding some of that accountability within the team on the offensive side of the ball?
I'll let those guys speak for themselves. I don't, talk openly about leadership things and informal division of labor on things such as that. I know you guys get an opportunity to talk to them, and I'm sure you will.
When you look at the problems with tight ends, you mentioned, was it more about get different guys in different places, maybe things not being communicated properly, or people just not being able to do the things that they needed to do to make the play?
I think if you look at the large body of work over several weeks, there's been examples of both.
Like when TJ came back in, he was wearing a dark visor, and a lot of fans have made a big issue about this because he's in concussion protocol. What would be the reason for switching to a?
I wasn't aware of that, to be honest with you, so I don't have a response to that. I wasn't aware that he changed visors, or he normally wears a visor. You mean the tint of his visor was different?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Mike, how would you evaluate Mitch's decision-making, particularly in the passing game?
I thought it improved as the game wore on, and I think with the full week's prep, I think it's reasonable to expect that to continue and then continue at an increased rate.
When we look back on the fourth down play, that going deep to Deontay, is that really, that's a high-risk play. in that situation? Should there have been the call? Maybe should there have been a different call in place?
We went deep to George Pickens late in the game against Baltimore, but we caught that one. And so, oftentimes the result of the play dictates perspective, if you will, and we understand that. We don't live in our fears, man. We play and play to win. A lot of big plays, explosion plays that happen in the NFL happen on weighty downs beyond the sticks. And so we're really comfortable taking that calculated risk and operating in that way. You can't allow people to overplay the sticks. You can't have that type of a personality, and that's just playing to win.
With this full week, is there any consideration to getting Mason some first team reps?
Mason will get an opportunity to get some reps, certainly. You don't get an opportunity to get a lot of that, particularly when you're at the 3 spot. When you're at the 2 spot and you have a full week, certainly. Last week, there were a limited amount of reps for all parties involved, and so he certainly will get more opportunity this week from a preparation standpoint.
With the ones, you mean?
Well, there's only really one group,
Like after taking 2 losses like this, on the channel, I know you guys try to block out the noise mostly, but how do you respond to the fans who are kind of frustrated at this point?
I share their frustration. Our business is winning. In the last couple of weeks, we have not handled business, and we understand that. And so, we're working with an edge.
Mike, you guys were making progress in the run game for a few weeks, and it kind of dropped back the last couple. How do you grade the progress of your offensive line as it's grown throughout this season?
I don't know that we've taken a step back in the run game in recent weeks, to be quite honest with you. Maybe have had less opportunity based on how the game's unfolded. I'm comfortable with the trajectory of that group and particularly what we're doing in terms of the run game.
Mike, you talked about the tight ends and the struggles there defending them. What's the balance with a guy like Minka where you know he could shut him down, but you also know that you might want to put him in a situation to make more plays by deploying a little bit differently?
Yeah, if you could clone him, you would, but you can't. And so that's just a component of strategy. Sometimes he's in deep middle or deep half, keeping a lid on it. Sometimes you bring him out of them circumstances in the effort to match up on people. We generally do that anyway. I don't know that that's becoming more of a discussion based on our present circumstance. That'd be a mischaracterization of the circumstance. We move him around in general anyway in an effort to best utilize his talents.
Mike, do you know if Keanu Neal's nearing any chance to return?
No update on Keanu's status.
Mike, would you give Mason an opportunity to compete to be the number 1 quarterback, and then why not?
He just hadn't had a lot of exposure in terms of in-helmet prep. And so I don't know, what do you mean when you say a fair evaluation or shot? I don't know that we evaluate practice performance in that way this time of year. He'll get an opportunity to get some work, and we'll evaluate that work and evaluate his readiness. But we're not, opening up competition and things of that nature. It's just not an environment for that as we work.
Mike, Mason Cole has had some low snaps in recent weeks. Is there something you can do to fix that, like at this point of the season? Or any thought to going to Nate Herbig?
There's certain routine things that we work routinely. We don't wait till they become a problem in an effort to address it. CQ exchanges is something that happens on a routine daily basis, and we'll continue with that. I acknowledge that we've had some that hadn't been good of late, but our behavior regarding it hasn't changed because we're not reactionary. We like to be out in front of those things. We value routine things happening routinely.
Mike, I know you coached a lot of teams through adversity. What can you do? What do you need to do so you don't lose this locker room right now?
I'm not really overly concerned about that. I'm focused on what we need to do to prepare this week. I imagine our group is as well, and we're going to tee up this performance.
Barring the ability to clone Minka or anybody else you feel like cloning, do you feel like you have the depth right now in that room to get your guys to the playoffs?
Certainly.
Is the way that George has kind of sort of openly and vocally voiced his frustrations on the sideline a problem for you or for the team?
It's a problem because it's not solution-oriented. We're all frustrated. But we got to manage our frustrations in a professional, mature way. And when it's not done that way, it's not necessarily pushing us toward solutions. And so from that perspective, certainly.
Mike, should that be happening with a guy who's well into his second year?
Man, I think it can happen to anybody when things aren't going well. To be quite honest with you, we care a lot. We put a lot into it. And so frustration is a natural human response. But I'm also completely comfortable asking these guys to do unnatural things because they're professional athletes, man. That's our job, to do the unique things and make it look regular, to make it look ordinary.
Is that something you try to, figure out, find a solution for things like that, some of that outside noise, or as far as inside noise, I guess, in this position? Or do you lean on some of your players to kind of take a player like that under their wing?
There's a million things to manage continually, and it's just a component of the job, to be quite honest with you. Not anything earth-shattering.
Mike, you coached this team through a lot of different types of seasons. Have you seen this past weekend leading into this week as a unique position of a team needing to find answers after the past two losses?
I don't know that I ever compare present circumstances to things of the past. I have that experience, but experiences that I have are different than experiences that the team has. And so I waste very little time doing those things. I really just focus on the variables at hand, the resources at hand, and how we can go about moving forward.
Mike, when you watch the film, do you see regression in the quality of play outside of the results? Do you see regression in the quality?
I think, if you took a collection of plays, any collection of plays, certainly, particularly if you're talking about the outcome of games, certainly, but not dramatically, no. We need to play better, certainly. But as I described the recent game, if we hold them to a field goal after that turnover, there's the point differential. And so oftentimes the outcome of games are really subtle things. The ability to stand up and hold somebody to a field goal when they're on a short field after a turnover or not. And oftentimes that being the difference in the outcome of games.
Now that you're fully healthy on the D-line, what went into Leal not getting the helmet?
We just had a lot of people available. We had to make some choices, and on a short week, we put together the group that we thought could give us the best chance of winning.
Does he need to do more to show you guys that he's...
Sometimes it's not about what he's doing or not doing. It might just be, what someone else provides us.
Anyone else?
Mike, you talked last week when I asked to describe the game. The Cardinals game, you said subpar. And then when you see the response in the first 30 minutes on Thursday, does that give you concern about the ability of guys to get emotionally up to respond to these challenges?
I'm not worried about 30 minutes of football. We play 60-minute football games. We don't always start the way we desire, but usually that doesn't define us. And so I don't paint with a broad brush relative to the start of games. We play 60-minute football games.
Yeah, but it's also unusual. If you guys get down 18, you guys, you don't win. Most teams don't win games when that happens.
Again, we don't run away from challenges or adversity. I acknowledge the probability of what you mentioned, but that game was very winnable for us.
If you describe the Cardinals game as subpar, what's one word you would use to describe the Patriots loss?
Likewise.
Anyone else? All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin from today. It just concluded. Missy Matthews joins us here, and I guess we'll start with the fact that Kenny Pickett still won't play, and I don't think that's a surprise based on what he had, the procedure he had. So it's going to be Mitch Trubisky. Are you surprised at all that it is still Mitch Trubisky, given the fact that it seems like they're looking for a spark at some point from anyone?
Yeah, I think, the whole thing that Coach Tomlin was talking about was it was a short week. There wasn't a lot of physical reps, so now you have an extended period of time, a normal week heading into the Colts game, even though it is a Saturday because of where you played. So I do think maybe that's went into the reasoning of why they're sticking with Mitch Trubisky. He also acknowledged that he got better as the game went on. So he did say, obviously, Mason Rudolph will get some snaps this week. Last week, there weren't that many because they didn't practice as much with the short week.
Yeah, but the bottom line is they got to get it done now. They actually improved their status. It's kind of weird to think about this, Missy. They were 8th after Thursday with the loss to New England, and then all of a sudden, because of what happened yesterday in the NFL, they're back up into 6th. So they have the opportunity with 4 games right in front of them, but the injuries continue to pile up. And now there are 2 guys that I would guess are questionable, the outside linebackers, based on concussions.
Yeah, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith definitely do not want to go into your last 4 games without those guys, knowing that you are still in it. As you said, after Thursday, felt like it was kind of over, and just watched a few games on Sunday and things changed quickly for a lot of teams.
And it's interesting, you try to put the people you want. In that game last week, they decided not to dress Marcus Golden because they needed some help on the inside linebackers, and it just so happened that 2 starting outside linebackers get injured or in concussion, and all of a sudden now you're short there. So, boy, they're piling up, and it's true of every team in the NFL. These injuries do make a difference, and all you have to do is look at the number of backup quarterbacks who are in play throughout the course of the league. We'll take a break. We'll come back and recap some of what Mike Tomlin said, look ahead to the Indy game and what the Steelers must do to win that game, because it's right there all in front of them despite 2 bad losses at home. We'll do it when we continue right here on KDK Plus and all your Steelers digital platforms.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
How do you compartmentalize what's happened over the last 5 days with a couple losses?
All losses are tough. Like I said, it's December. Losses are tough in December, and we have to get it back on.
They were getting Ezekiel Elliott out into the flats a lot. Were they doing anything that you didn't expect with him there, or? I think he had like 7 catches for 79 yards.
Yeah.
Does it feel like a missed opportunity here when you had two win teams coming in here? You guys are in the heat of a playoff race here.
To be honest, man, we don't even look at records. We in a situation that obviously we have 2 back-to-back losses, and we have to regroup. Because like I said, in December, it don't matter if you're going against a 13-1 team or a 1-13 team. All December game matters, and you can't. The losses in December, you can't have.
To kind of respond, and how much will that need to be the key going forward now with still a lot to play for?
Say it again.
You guys obviously responded in the second half, made a game out of it. How much will that need to be, why do you feel like that was, and how much will that need to be part of the formula going forward?
No, yeah, I mean, we got obviously great coaches, made great adjustments at halftime, and then we went out there and played how we knew we wanted to play. I know first half there was things that we wish we could have corrected and did during that point in time, but wanted to show that in the second half.
Here we go, Steelers! Here we go! This place is juiced up.
The stadium is on fire. They're enjoying what they're seeing.
I thought Mitch picked up his play as the game wore on. I thought that is a reasonable expectation for him to be even better because of that experience and because of the experience of having a full week's prep this week in preparation for the performance, in helmet reps and things of that nature, full speed reps. Excited about that component of it.
So Mitch Trubisky will start again this week against Indianapolis. Kenny Pickett's still out after he had his procedure on his ankle. And they did fight back from a 21-3 deficit, but that's a tough deficit to overcome. And mistakes could happen. And Mitch Trubisky has had a history of throwing some balls that could be intercepted. He had 1 interception, 2 were also possibly intercepted. But as the game went on, and I think it's a valid point to expect that he, with more time, should be better prepared for this game.
Yeah, and I think, when you let the Patriots score 3 touchdowns in the first half, that really puts the offense into a hole. But they did start to had a chance for a comeback. A lot of things that didn't go their way, but that's what happens whenever you're playing from behind so much. But it does make sense in terms of, what Coach Tomlin is explaining of why he's sticking with Mitch and what they're going to do moving forward. And hopefully with a full week, even, the extra days to rest their bodies before they start preparing for the Colts will help the offense as a whole, and they can kind of start to get things going again.
Yeah, we saw the touchdown pass there to Deontay Johnson. That was a really good pass over coverage. And again, when you get some time, you do see some things that you like about Mitch Trubisky, but it's just the mistakes. You got to stay away from those. And Tomlin cited that in his press conference that the one by Peppers in the first half resulted in a touchdown, and it kind of changed the game.
And for the Steelers, when they did get an interception, not being able to capitalize on different things like that too. So it's kind of hand in hand, and it just felt like, especially these last two losses, just not playing complementary football whatsoever. Little sparks here and there in different units, but when it's all not working perfectly and you're playing from behind, things like this happen.
All right, and when this happens, when you lose, especially at home to two teams that have 2-10 records, there is frustration. And George Pickens was called out on the national broadcast because of some pouting, bad body language, whatever the case. The frustration's there. Mike Tomlin addressed it earlier today, in case you missed it.
It's a problem because it's not solution oriented. We're all frustrated, but we got to manage our frustrations in a professional, mature way. And when it's not done that way, it's not necessarily pushing us toward solutions. And so from that perspective, certainly.
Yeah, I think he's right about that. And he's a second-year player, but so be it. You're a professional at this level. And when you do stuff like that, it shows. And quite frankly, you're not going to get the ball every time. I know all these wide receivers in the NFL want it, but you have other responsibilities. And you can't let not getting the ball affect other responsibilities. And I think sometimes you see that with number 14.
Yeah, and I think just with the offense, it was so clunky at first. You're dealing with a different quarterback. It's not Kenny Pickett, who you've been playing with all year. It's more important to come together as a unit, as a team, to figure out what's not working, so maybe they could start getting things to work sooner rather than mainly in the second half. And as Coach said, it's not solution-oriented. Nothing really good comes out of it other than the negative attention that it sometimes draws when pointed out from the outside. And also just in terms of your teammates, Pat Freiermuth, one of the guys that definitely on the sideline was doing his best to keep everybody on offense engaged and into it and telling them, we can fix this, we can turn this around. So there are guys that will continue to do that, and hopefully that rubs off on everybody, and it's something that consistently happens moving forward in the last 4 games.
At the game, and you heard this, everyone did, when there were chants for Mason Rudolph, he's going to get more opportunity in practice just because he's moved up now to the backup. And I wonder, Mike Tomlin said after the game that he had no inclination to go to Rudolph. Do you think there's a point where that could happen in this game?
Sure. I think it could probably happen in any game. I mean, I don't think anybody thought that Kenny Pickett was going to come in at halftime of the 4th game last year when Mitch Trubisky was named the starter. So I don't know, but he did say in terms of Mason getting more snaps, which is natural for the second guy. It's why Mitch, is familiar with these guys as well from just this season alone. It's not an open competition. It's not like they're fighting between Mitch and Mason who's going to start this week. Coach made it very clear today, Monday, had to think about that, that for Saturday, number 10 will be starting. I'm sure if needed to be called upon, Mason will be ready.
Yeah, and I think given the gravity of the situation where they are, you got to do whatever is best for the team at that point of the game, and the game will dictate what happens with that. As far as the run game, we only saw this week 19 carries for 40 yards. It has been a real consistent run game. They went through a stretch of 4 games, Missy, with 150 yards plus, and they were 1 removed from setting an all-time Steeler record for most 150-yard games. And things changed in this game. I imagine when you're down early the way they did, they gave up 3 touchdown passes in the first half of this game to Bailey Zappi, that you don't go to it as much, but they need to get back on that because it has been a strength for them.
Absolutely, and something that has worked for them, has helped out the quarterback position no matter who is there. So hopefully that is something, getting Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, just the duo of how they utilize them and make it consistent. The grounding and pounding, gets to the point where the other team doesn't want to tackle these guys. That's what you want, and especially in December football when you're making a playoff push. And not that it matters, they'll be inside Lucas Oil Stadium this weekend, but those other games, there's a chance for some very not so great weather.
Yeah, well, it's nice to have an indoor thing. We saw a game yesterday, a 3-0 game, first ever indoors that ended up 3-0. I don't expect that in this game. I expect to see some points because both Gardner Minshew And Mitch Trubisky can throw touchdowns, but also they have been prone to interceptions, so you may see some big plays both ways. That's the next assignment for the Steelers, a Saturday game in Indianapolis. We'll talk about the Colts and what the Steelers have to do to get a playoff spot. Right now they're in one with 4 games left, but 3 of the next 4 on the road. We'll break it down next right here as we continue on KDK Plus and Steeler digital platforms.
Calling all football enthusiasts. Immerse yourself in the captivating world of the Steelers at the new Steelers Hall of Honor Museum located inside Acrisure Stadium. Explore over 10,000 square feet of history where interactive videos, music, and engaging exhibits await. Feel the thrill of the broadcast booth as you make your mark on a historic Steelers play call. Plus, get up close to the iconic Super Bowl rings, game-worn uniforms, and priceless artifacts. Plan your visit today at Steelers.com/museum.
The 4th and 2, how much would you guys appreciate the opportunity? I mean, you were pretty good on those short yardage situations to have that for yourselves.
Yeah, it's a weird down and distance. You don't know. If it's 4th and 1, you feel comfortable about a sneak. It's almost a little too long for a sneak, and again, I don't think there's any regrets about play calls. We didn't execute. We didn't make the plays we needed to make.
Does this loss hurt more or feel worse because of the way that last week's loss went? I mean, is it compounded?
Every loss sucks. One doesn't feel worse than the other. The one that feels the worst is the one that's most current. So, like I said, it hurts, but we have 4 games to go down this stretch, and wanted to bring the fight out of us and go win some games on this stretch.
Something in the preparation standpoint for you guys you feel that needs to change, or
No,
how do you go about that?
No, our weeks are pretty normal. Every week's the same. Coach T does a great job. The coaches do a great job of talking us through the game plan stuff. Just gotta keep going.
Where's the missing link?
Don't know.
How much of a lost opportunity is this, these last 2 games here at home, and with the records of those teams?
Yeah, it's big. It's a big one. It's big 2 losses. But we gotta move past it this weekend and keep going towards Indy.
3 of the last 4 on the road. What are you going to find out about the toughness of this team, what this team's made of?
Find out real quick.
Where do you guys go from here? I mean, what was the feeling in the locker room when you guys came back in after the game finished?
It sucked, but gotta move past it, watch the film, and like I said, go focus on Indianapolis.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
And I'm not necessarily looking for positive messages in an effort to build them up. I'm probably taking the opposite approach and talking about how urgent, these weeks and opportunities and games are, because the road is getting narrow is a phrase that we like to use, and we're moving into the middle of December now, and so that's just acknowledging truth. Opportunities to establish your position. These games are big. This one's big for us and big for them.
It certainly is. He talks about road getting narrow. Road is the operative word because the Steelers have 3 of their last 4 on the road. The only home game is the Cincinnati game, and all of a sudden they look rejuvenated with Jake Browning. But let's talk about Indianapolis because they find themselves in a very interesting division as well. Jacksonville has hit a kind of a rut now. They lost yesterday in Cleveland. They have a tough game coming up against Baltimore. Indy could have their sights on a division win here if they play well at home. But the nature of the NFL, it's unbelievable how one week you look good, the next you don't look good, and all these teams, 22 out of 32 right now, are within 1 game of a playoff spot.
And the NFL absolutely loves this because of just how crazy it was. I know in my house yesterday, we watched football all day because you're just going, holy, this is happening, this is happening, and what it means for every team. And it will continue to do that, not just this week. Things will change, playoff seeding will change, but then it will do it the following week. And it is crazy when you get to this point. It's what makes, I think, the football product, the NFL, so fun to watch. And as you said, it's not like the Colts are, completely out of it. There are so many teams that are 7-6 in the AFC right now, and especially watching that Bills and Chiefs game, that meant a lot to a lot of different teams.
It certainly did. It meant a lot to Buffalo. They needed to get back on the train, and they did by winning in Kansas City. And Kansas City now is in jeopardy. Who would have thought this, that Denver, starting 1-5, would be in a position maybe to win that division? But let's focus on Indy. And Jonathan Taylor, if he plays, you know what he is, but he's coming off a surgery. Not sure what his situation is. Zach Moss is more than capable. Do you expect him to be run first, or do you think Gardner Minshew can come out and just start wheeling it around? Because the Steelers have a lot of questions in their secondary.
Yeah, I mean, I think his RPO aspect and just what they've been utilizing with him, but the run game for sure. I think, we don't know if Jonathan Taylor is going to play. Their coach was also speaking today, and he said he will return to practice this week. In terms of availability for the actual game, that's to be determined. As you said, it's only been about 2 weeks, but it's not like there has been a drop-off without him in the lineup.
No, and yesterday they couldn't get it going. They had a couple of runs that you're looking at right now, but overall Cincinnati did a pretty good job of stopping that aspect of their game. But you look at Michael Pittman, he's a guy who's been there for an awful long time at the wide receiver spot. He's almost at 1,000 yards, and this is even without Anthony Richardson, their number one pick, who started the season with Minshew. He just keeps putting up, and I wonder how the Steelers are going to try to slow him down, and who gets that assignment. Would it be Joey Porter Jr.? Would they try to zone him? I don't even know the best way to stop Michael Pittman because he gets his numbers every year.
Yeah, I think, the Joey Porter Jr. thing's always intriguing. We've seen what he's been able to do since given the starting job. I think, at least from a health standpoint for the Steelers defense, the people that are eligible to play, it sounds like they're mostly getting healthy. Landon Roberts, I was kind of shocked that he played on Thursday night, given that it was a groin injury in such a short period of time in terms of the middle of the defense, but it sounds like he's going to be good to go as well. So that's good news for them. And of course, the big question mark is going to be what will the status of Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt be, because that's going to impact a lot of what that defense does.
There's no question about that, and that also impacts what Indy offensive game plan may be. But there's some mojo here because you were there last year in Indianapolis, and the Steelers came away with a win on a fourth quarter comeback. So they've been in that stadium. They know how to play there. What was the component of Steeler fans at Indianapolis? Do you remember?
It was pretty good.
Was it pretty good?
Yeah, I feel like it's always pretty good in that city because you can drive there.
Right.
It's indoors, so no matter when they're playing, you're good.
Tickets are probably available too because the Colts have been up and down, right?
So absolutely, yeah. It wasn't, I would say, not like Vegas or LA and some of the craziness we've seen out there, but definitely good.
Well, after that, it's the final home game. Cincinnati comes here. How about them? Yeah, everybody thought they were dead when Joe Burrow was out for the season. Jake Browning comes in, and this has been a whole bunch of backup quarterbacks all season long. It's one of the things about the league that makes me wonder about 18 games down the road. Can they ever sustain that? Because there's so many injuries already. But Jake Browning has been very good, and all of a sudden that game becomes intriguing given the fact the Steelers beat them in Cincinnati, and they need to offset that as far as tiebreakers are concerned.
Right, and just how the AFC North is positioned right now in the playoff picture. I know there's still another game tonight, but it went from, all four teams were in at some point earlier in the season, injuries and different things happened, and now they're back in it again. And as you said, it's a division matchup, so it's going to be huge next week. And as you said, they look completely different than when the Steelers saw them just a few weeks ago.
That's the nature of the NFL. It's going to go right down the wire, as it often does. I remember times at Acrisure Stadium, players sitting on the field watching scoreboards of late games just to find out if they were in or not. It seems like we're heading in that direction as well. We have more coming up. Thank you for joining us here on KDK Plus and Steeler Digital platforms. It's a Mike Tomlin Monday today as we get set for the game on Saturday at Indianapolis. We'll be back right after this.
This place is juiced up.
The stadium is on fire. They're enjoying what they're seeing.
How do you compartmentalize everything that's happened over the last couple of games here?
I don't know if I compartmentalize it. I just try to stay in the moment of it. When you lose, people try to do the same thing, and so either we learn from our mistakes or, they're going to continue to keep biting us in the butt.
How tough is this going to be to recover from?
We'll see. I think you play a game on Sunday, you lose, and then Thursday you lose a game like the way we lost. Got some time to think about it, but we got football after that, and then hopefully you're past the grieving process after this time off.
Cam, you've been with this team through a lot of ups and downs over the years.
Mhm.
This feels like a unique position for you guys. Is there a change in anything that you guys have to institute as leaders to stop this?
I think it's the stuff we talk about. I think it's just the execution-wise. You look when we were out there on defense early on, man, you can't give up 21 points like that. I don't care who it is. You tip your hat to them. They got the job done today. But, man, there were mistakes out there all around. And, luckily we were able to get a lid on it later. But spotting 21 points and having to dig yourself out of that hole is not something you're usually accustomed to in the NFL.
You guys have talked a lot about how, you guys, it wasn't anything new that you guys didn't see before. It wasn't a surprise that they caught you with. It's been about execution. When that continues to be a problem, what has to change to get you guys over the hump of that execution?
Either guys learn or, you got to change who's in there. Myself included. If I can't execute, then you got to take me out.
Calling all football enthusiasts. Immerse yourself in the captivating world of the Steelers at the new Steelers Hall of Honor Museum located inside Acrisure Stadium. Explore over 10,000 square feet of history where interactive videos, music, and engaging exhibits await. Feel the thrill of the broadcast booth as you make your mark on a historic Steelers play call. Plus, get up close to the iconic Super Bowl rings, game-worn uniforms, and priceless artifacts. Plan your visit today at Steelers.com/museum.
They appear to be very comfortable with Gardner, and they should be. He's new to Indy, but he's not new to what it is that they do. He came over with the coaching staff from Philadelphia. I would imagine they were really intentional about his acquisition, and they're finding comfort in that now that they get a chance to call upon them.
Yeah, he was one of those guys they liked a lot, brought him over, and he's had his time as a starter in this league. And when he does his thing, he's pretty good. He's had games, and I look back over 5 over the last 2 years, over 300 yards with 3 touchdowns. But then again, he's had games where he's thrown 4 interceptions. So it's one of those things. I think the Steelers, if they're healthy and playing the way they can defensively, would love to blitz the guy and try to force those turnovers more. With all these injuries, I wonder what they can actually do. And if you blitz, do you pay the price with Gardner Minshew?
I mean, it's just such a big question, not knowing when your 2 starting outside linebackers, if they're going to be available or not. I just think, the one thing that Coach Tomlin kept stressing earlier today about the defense was the red zone, giving up big third downs, the situational football, the weighty downs he always talks about. And that just felt like, especially against Bailey Zappi, what continued to happen. They weren't able to either keep them out of the end zone or only hold them to 3, which would have made a huge difference in that game. And obviously many others, especially when you look back at losses, but something that they're going to have to be able to do on Saturday because they're not going to shut out the Colts. That would be great, but let's be honest here. So I just think that it's something that the defense will have a longer time to work on with the communication. It's different when you're playing on the road than at home and trying to see who's healthy and who's ready to go.
And the Steelers have had problems with containing tight ends. We saw Trey McBride, who just got better and better as the game went on against Arizona. And last week, Hunter Henry's a guy who made big plays. He had 2 touchdown passes in that game. That's not unusual because he had success when he was with the Chargers. They have 4 guys that they use. They're not prominent names, but they're not afraid to use them. And I wonder if they will ramp that up, knowing the Steelers have had problems stopping tight ends in the middle of the field, especially.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? You saw it work 2 weeks in a row. I'm sure when Bill Belichick was planning for that game, he saw what the Cardinals were able to do. Not that they wouldn't utilize Hunter Henry anyways, but it's just going to be something I think they're going to have to come up with different ways to try to scheme and stop so that they don't let that happen in the middle of the field.
And the other thing the Steelers cannot do is start the way they've started. And I would have thought for sure after the loss to Arizona, they would not have started the way they did in this game with 3 touchdown passes right off the bat to Bailey Zappi. This was a New England offense that had only scored 13 points in their last 3 games combined, and yet they were able to come in here and dictate terms to this game to the point where when you're down that big, you take one of the biggest strengths of the Steelers kind of away from them. That is the consistent run game. So, we talk about fast starts, Missy, all the time. They're important. The statistics bear that out. If you fall behind in this league by double digits early in games, it's very hard to overcome it. Even though you might be able to get close, you can't get over the hurdle.
Right, and then you need everything else to go right as well when you talk about penalties or just different things that happen, different calls as well. But even in the Arizona game, it was only a field goal, but they still scored on their opening drive, but then things just started to really taper off.
Yeah, we're seeing some of that with Zappi being able to do some things with stepping up in the pocket. And this is, the play that really hurt. This is after the interception, back of the end zone. There's Henry with a touchdown. It was a good pass, but again, they took full, advantage of the situation with the turnover there. So this is going to be one of the things that they look for on this road, not to make those kind of mistakes. Mitch Trubisky has to be good in that regard, but also go down the field more. They have guys who should be utilized more, and I would expect they're going to try to unleash those guys. They should. Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, whatever you want to say, want the football. They should get the football more, and I'd like to see more down the field throws.
Yeah, and I think even, we saw what they were able to do when they utilized Pat Freiermuth in the middle of the field in Cincinnati, similar to what we're talking about the reverse in terms of the Steelers defense versus tight ends. But also Mitch Trubisky, when he had a full week last year against Carolina, we saw them come out with a win in that game against the Panthers, and hopefully that's something that, they can learn from what they did wrong on Thursday with a longer week, a normal week, get prepared, and hopefully we see the same result on Saturday.
Let me ask you this before we go to break, and that is at the beginning of the season, I thought the AFC would be very tough, but I also didn't expect you'd have this many teams available this late. Like, for example, I think, Baltimore's the number 1 seed. When you watch them, sure, they're playing well, but they also give up points at critical times. And then you look at some of these other teams like Kansas City struggling. They lead the AFC in drop passes. And they've lost a home game, and they may have to play on the road in the postseason.
They will have to play on the road, yeah.
So, there's a lot of things I did not expect, the least of which is Denver. I thought after they lost, 70 to whatever it was down in Miami, that was going to be another one of those years, and they have bounced back to look like one of the stronger teams in the AFC.
They are making a comeback, and yeah, I think it's also, we're talking about just December football and why it's so great to watch now. Once you get to the playoffs, you know that anything can happen, and it's not just the number 1 seeds that do well in it, and it's why it's like addicting.
It is, and you want to see the Steelers extend that addiction all the way to the end and in the postseason. We'll see if they could get this first week going against Indianapolis. 1 to 4 left, 3 on the road. You'll see the game on Saturday, KDK TV. We'll take a break, come back with more right here from the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the South Side.
Gear up with game day necessities at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline gear, jerseys, terrible towels, memorabilia, and custom exclusives directly from the team. You can also gear up online at shop.steelers.com.
It seemed like you guys had a couple chances in the quick change game in the second half there, and you weren't able to really take advantage of them. Why do you feel like you guys weren't successful in those circumstances?
Missed opportunities. I got to play better. I feel like I let the guys down. We got to score off the turnover, a couple of those 4th downs, the one in the red zone, and then the 1 ball to Deontay. I got to be better for the guys, for the team. It's disappointing, missed opportunities, and I didn't play good enough for us to win. And that's how I'm feeling right now.
Mitch, actually, the play before the long throw to Deontay, there was 2:05 left on the clock, 3rd and 2. Was there any conversation about running there, using the 2-minute warning as your timeout, and then maybe resetting or getting closer at least so you could try a sneak or something on 4th and short?
I don't know what they were talking about on the sidelines. I was on the huddle. I'd have to go back and check with Coach. I get what you're saying. We definitely had, I think we had our RPO on. Is that the one I threw to Deontay, and then we got it to 2 yards?
I thought it was actually incomplete.
The play before?
I'm talking about the 3rd and 2.
The one
before.
that Pickens over the...
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm thinking about a different one. Regardless, the one to Pickens on the slant, I missed. So, we had some opportunities. I like the calls at the end. We just didn't make the throws. I didn't capitalize. Whatever they were talking about on the sidelines, whether it was run, pass, we understand we had an opportunity to run it before the 2 minute, but we liked our call on 3rd and 2. I had Jordan on a slant. I looked on the iPad. I thought it was going to be a little bit different angle coming out, and I put it high, trying to lead him up the field, and it was a bad throw.
Mitch, before looking at tape, anything you can put your finger on why such a slow start?
They did a good job of disrupting timing of some of our routes. We got in some 3rd and long situations, which is tough against those guys. It's a solid defense. They do a good job of mixing up coverages, stopping the run, putting you in 3rd and long, uncomfortable situations. And they did a good job of mixing coverage and just contesting throws, made it tough on us. And we weren't good enough in the first and second quarter, and that mostly starts with me. And I feel like timing was a part of that. And I just got to be better.
Experience the legacy of the Steelers like never before. Step into the Steelers Hall of Honor Museum at Acrisure Stadium. Explore over 10,000 square feet of Steelers history, rare artifacts, and interactive exhibits. Plan your visit today at Steelers.com/museum.
We've had a couple of guys that are in the concussion protocol, Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt. They're in the protocol. We'll rely on the medical experts in terms of their availability and then the stages of availability in terms of as we push through the week. But I don't have a lot of information or detail there. I really wait and hear from them regarding those things.
And that is the biggest proposition going into this week, if those guys are available or not. And if they're not, all of a sudden now, again, a strength of their team, not anything against what you see with Herbig or Golden or anyone else, but you're losing those 2 guys on top of all the inside linebackers who are gone. Boy, that's a tough situation to try to stop any team.
Right, and just the attention that TJ Watt draws. You know it's going to take more than one guy to try to stop him from getting to the quarterback. So it is going to be interesting to watch. That's strictly a medical thing when they're cleared to return to practice, how much they're allowed to do, and then you have to go through the different steps before you're able to. It has been since Thursday, so I don't know if that helps, but the game is Saturday, not Sunday, so you're losing a day on that end. We're just going to have to wait and see, but I also thought the good news was that Landon Roberts, who was dealing with the groin, coach said he should be good to go. James Pierre, they might be getting him back as well. And then Isaac Seumalo and Najee Harris missed some time last week. Sounds like the long week is helping them as well.
Yeah, they're going to need to be as fresh as they can be heading into the final 4 games here. The Steelers, you'd also like we saw Pat Freiermuth a couple of weeks ago get 11 receptions on, I think it was 14 targets, something of that, or 9 catches on 12 targets. They need more of that. You know, Philadelphia brought Goddard back last night, even though they didn't win the game. But they utilized him. And that's the thing. I like to see the Steelers utilize more tight ends, and I would expect that Indy is going to look to use theirs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, as Coach said, the road is narrowing. It's that time of the year when everybody needs to do whatever they can to get into that playoff positioning. So interesting to see. I'll start Saturday for the Steelers after a weekend of watching non-Steelers football.
And they watched every team in the AFC North win, and yet they moved up. That's the nature of the NFL, folks. And thanks for joining us. We'll do it again next week. Thank you. Look forward to the Steelers Colts Saturday at 4:30. Have a good day.